Well, hello everyone. Welcome again to another video conversation between Tina and I, as Tina takes us through 52 financial biblical keys. We're on key 19, and it's great to say hello to Tina again. Hello, Tina.
Hello, Mark. Haven't spoken to you for ages.
Once again, apologies if people hear seagulls. They nest above my office and they're making a real racket at the moment.
There's a sermon in there, Mark.
There is. There are lots of seagull sermons. The perils of living by the seaside.
Yeah.
But also the joys as well. So wherever we live, whatever we're doing, there are challenges for us in terms of how we use the resources that God has given us, and how we function from His abundance and with joy in terms of resources, kingdom resources. In this video, Tina, we're going to be talking about sowing our best seed.
Yes.
So why don't you just kind of lead us into your thoughts, in some introductory thoughts around this, and then we'll take it from there.
Probably my introductory thought might be a challenge in itself. So I'll give it a go, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Start with a challenge.
I think the more of a poverty mindset we have, the more mingy we are with our seeds, with our giving, full stop. And I think the more free we are from a poverty mindset, or a poverty spirit, as some people put it, then the more we are able to give as generously as God wants us to give, and sow as generously as God wants us to sow. A couple of scriptures for you. Galatians 6:7-9 says this: "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. For he who sows to his flesh will reap will of the flesh reap corruption, but he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." And then the other scripture that comes to mind is from Luke 6, and it's where Jesus, in my Bible, Jesus' words are red. So Jesus is talking some really key things. He's talking about not judging, about being forgiving. And he says, give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your bosom. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. And this is one of the reasons why we want to give our best seed. I'm sure I've shared with you on these videos the time that I used to host a group in my home. Back when I lived in Milton Keynes, I ran a group called the Koinonia Group. And we'd have a time of worship and Bible study. I was part of a church, but it was just an informal group. And then we'd have lunch afterwards. I bought a limited amount of fresh coffee. Perhaps once a month I'd buy a bag of fresh coffee. But most of the time we had value coffee, budget coffee. And I was just getting it out to serve one day. And I felt the Lord say to use the proper coffee. And I thought, I don't want to get that. And I'm like, there's a little wrestle in me on that front. And in the middle of the wrestle, I felt the Lord say, because I want you to treat people as if they're me. Ooh, that hit me where it hurts. It hit me where it hurt, rather. So it just all of a sudden gave me a huge shift in my worldview. And so now when I give, I don't give mingily. I give the best I can of what I have. And, I look at my life and I think, wow, wow, what God has done. And I've lost track of the number of prophetic words that I get from people who don't know me, who say things like, God's going to give you whatever you ask for from heaven. They all say the same kind of thing. But I don't doubt it went back to that kitchen when I was stood there having that struggle of whether or not I was going to be generous with people or not. And so that verse about pressed down, shaken together, running over. In other words, God's going to stuff as much as he can down our throats so that actually we're able to give generously to other people with the same measure that we use. So if we're treating people like they're Jesus, if we're doing our very best for them in how we give and how we sow, and it's not about amounts. The widow with the 2 mites. I've had some people give me £10 and say, I'm so sorry, it's only a tiny bit. And I say, please don't apologize, because the Lord is looking at the heart. If that's all you've got, then actually that is a huge amount. And it's a lot more than someone who puts £2,000 in, and then it's a tiny bit. Now, don't get me wrong. Most people wouldn't sniff at £2,000. But God is the one that when we're giving, he's looking at our hearts. He's looking at how good a steward are we being, and whether or not what we are giving is of him. Is it? Are we treating people as if they're Jesus?
And so the mindset thing is really, really crucial here, isn't it?
It is.
It's you raised the challenge already. It's potentially the limiting factor. It's the thing that will limit in all sorts of different ways. And if our mindset is instead towards God's generosity and has been changed by that, then that makes a massive difference.
Yeah, hugely. I had some people staying in the retreat just this last few days, and I gave them 2 or 3 books that I felt would be helpful that I had written, just so that they could make progress on those things really quickly. And they kind of said to me, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I dropped one of your books on the floor. It got a muddy print on it or something." And I said, "What are you worrying for? I gave them to you. It wasn't a loan." And they looked shocked.
Yeah.
They looked shocked. It's a book. My goodness, I've given cars away. It's a book, I want to say. God is itching. He's bursting to give us so much. But he's looking for his character in us. And he considers us good steward where he sees himself in us. So he's looking for his reflection. Yeah. As he sees his reflection in us, he'll be generous.
And I guess that illustrates the fact that the culture that we're all in, the prevailing culture, is a poverty mindset culture.
Absolutely.
People are to receiving generosity, to being generous. They're not used to receiving the best. And that is what the kind of, in a sense, those are the waters we're swimming in.
Yes, it's interesting, because I had this conversation with someone last week that actually a sign of whether or not we have a poverty mindset isn't how much we give, but how much we can receive. For me, I believe if someone can give you something and it's astonishing in its generosity, and you're able to receive it without too much resistance in your heart. Now, I'm not talking about expectation. If you're someone who's like, "Oh, I just expect everyone to give to me all the time," I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about genuinely in need, someone giving to you generously. If you're able to receive it, then I believe that's how God gets us to grow out of a poverty spirit. But if we're resisting that receiving, then we won't grow out of it. Remember, God so loved the world that he gave. That's pretty much most of the Bible. It's about what he's given. People who don't believe in God, you're breathing, you've got a body, you've got a life. He's given it to us. And so if we can recognize that we are being given something and receive it, then we will grow out of that poverty mindset. But, you know, God doesn't want to keep hitting a brick wall. He doesn't want resistance all the time. And so the way that we can get out of that is learning to receive, but also when we give the very best of what we've got. In the Old Testament, God used to have a problem of people saying, oh, that's our tithe, thinking they're sheep. And they'd find the limping ones, the ones that were a bit kind of mosquito bitten or something, dog-eared, whatever. They were not the creme de la creme. They weren't the cream of the crop. They were the worst. And, you know, it talks about honor the Lord with our wealth and with the first fruits. Now, first fruits isn't just the first of something that comes. It's the best and the first. And so it's part of our worship. And if we're doing that in the vertical direction with all our heart, it will be so easy to do it in the horizontal direction to each other, because we're used to doing it. You know, we sing, don't we? I give you all the honor and praise that's due your name. Yeah. And if we're doing that, if it's truly what our life is demonstrating, then it will be easier, much easier to give to other people, as long as we've got the Lord's direction. There's times when we might be almost persuaded or compelled into giving. That isn't the Lord telling us to give. That's people hinting, dropping hints, pressuring us, emotionally manipulating us. We never give in those kind of contexts. We always give at the Lord's prompting. That's what I always say. And give, I always say to the Lord, how much? And it's always bigger than I think, even now. And so, you know, it's because God is generous. He's not mingy. Jasper and I I'll say, you know, I feel we need to be praying to give to this particular person or situation. I'll say, you pray, I'll pray, and we'll pray. And there's almost always a division between us. We always err on the side of generosity.
Very good. It's brilliant. So it seems to me there's some kind of key things for people in this. How you break down that mindset and come to that kind of place of sowing the best seed. There's things like addressing mindset. You know, what is asking the question? Well, what am I like? You know, those kind of things. But also, there's some key steps about choosing generosity as your kind of like your front-footed kind of, this is what I'm going to always err towards.
Well, I always say to people, you give what you can, not what you can't. It's pointless giving and getting into debt. I know many Christians that are tempted because they are just generally generous people. They give left, right, and center all over the place and never leave enough for themselves. Yeah. That's not what God's asking for. We have our tithes and we have our seeds, but the bulk of our income is for our needs, and we need to make sure that we are making sure we're provided for. I think that when it comes to sowing, we need to think about the need that someone has. You know, sometimes people will ask me for something. I will always take that need to the Lord. I'll always take that need to the Lord. But generally, I have a policy that I don't give to people I don't know, and I don't know their ministry. Just in case you're ministry and you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, goody, here's this generous person. Because you know, unless the Lord tells me otherwise, is what I say. When it comes to sowing our best seed, we need to be people of honor. If we've learned to honor the Lord with our wealth and our first fruits, then we'll know a bit of what it's like to honor people. And I think there isn't enough teaching in the church about honor. Sometimes honor is like, I'm going to put you on a pedestal because you're perfect and you're never going to fall off. Well, first of all, it's not about looking at the person. It's about looking beyond the person, looking at the service that they're doing for the kingdom. So we're honoring the service that they are doing for the kingdom. That's why it says those who preach the word are worthy of double honor. because what they're doing is they're preaching the word. Some people, you give them a title, they expect honor just from their name badge, and they haven't earned it yet.
Yeah.
Whereas people who serve, the honor comes because they serve. And young people understand that. Sometimes the older generation, of which I might be part, we have an expectation that because I am a parent, a more mature adult, whatever, I expect people to do as I ask. But actually, honor is one of those things. It is good to honor God for all that he is and all that he's done. It's good to honor each other, but we need to look at, why are we honoring them? Don't just, honor somebody because they have a piece of plastic around their neck. We honor them because of the service they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that I don't think that's fully answered your question, but I've lost my thread slightly. You'll have to bring me back on track, Mark.
Yeah, well, the connection between honor and best seed is very clear. You're making it very clearly. I think the fact is that saying your best seed will always to do with honoring. We've got to honor. We're honoring character. We're honoring. We just actually recorded earlier another video on good soil.
Yes.
And we talked about these kind of things there. These two videos cross over, really, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And it seems to me that we're really just trying to challenge. And those of you who are watching this, you may have comments or questions. We'll try and follow them up afterwards as well if you watch this while we're not live. But do throw in those kind of things.
Yes.
Because we are engaging with stuff here which is to do with limiting factors, to do with the things that stop us from being how God has called us to be, and how we're how we are to live this life with Him, and we're going to live, and it's to live as those who sow the best seed and who are generous and who don't have a poverty mindset.
Yeah, because Jesus said, with the same measure that we use, it will be measured back to us. So if we are giving the best we can, then we can expect that God will give us back the best He can. I'm not looking, by the way, when I'm giving at people. I'm assessing their need, but actually I'm giving to God.
Yeah.
Because I'm being prompted by Him to give. And if I'm not being prompted by Him, then I might be being pressured instead by other people. I'd rather be prompted than pressured any day. But I'm looking at the Lord. I'm serving Him by giving. And we are all serving Him when we give where He tells us to.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easy to give because other people are giving, and we get swept along with the crowd. But actually, we need to be discerning and make those decisions for ourselves in our own heart, so that we're not people who are just doing things because other people are.
Yes.
We're making a decision from the heart, and God, I believe, will honor us for that.
And I think your comment just now about we are giving to God is the probably the key principle at the heart of this sowing our best seed is that's the guiding factor. It's are we giving to God?
Yeah, absolutely. It's our worship. Our giving is part of our worship.
Yeah.
It's not separate because it's finances. Like it's the whole Hebrew culture is all interrelated.
Yeah.
And so it's all worship. It's all what God asks us to do. And sharing what we've got with those who don't have anything, and sharing generously. I remember growing up, if I felt like I had the smallest piece of something, I'd be tempted as I'm an adult to give myself the biggest piece of something when I'm divvying it. But I bear in mind the fact that actually when I'm giving to God.
Yes.
So, it's even at that level, it's important.
Yeah.
To remember that it's God we're serving, and we're serving people as we do that.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much, Tina. It's been really good doing this. We're going to be recording more videos, so watch out for them. This is key number 19. There's plenty more to come. Do keep joining us as we explore these financial biblical keys. And do keep making comments and reflections and things. So thank you so much, Tina. See you next time.
Thank you, Mark.